T Show. Dave Hughes here on the guest line with us. Representative Mac Huddleston. Several chairmanships, couple of chairmanships he has in the House, but I want to talk now to Captain Mac Huddleston from the United States Army. Cap, number one, again, I'm going to echo it again. Thank you for your service. We appreciate the years of your life that you gave to help keep this country safe. So thank you for that.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now, walk us through your military career. Of course, you're retired now, but I understand you were a pilot, right?
That's right. I flew helicopters. Flew the Huey helicopter. It's the prototypical helicopter that you see in carrying troops and in different situations in films about the Vietnam War.
Now, when did your military career start?
Well, there was one thing that got me interested in flying and got me on a track to be a pilot. I grew up with my grandmother and granddaddy up at Holmes County, out in the country from Durant. We had a little cotton farm, and when the cotton got too big to put dust on it to keep the insects off of it, we would call in a plane from the Delta to come in and put some powder on the crops and to get rid of the pests that were damaging the yields in the cotton. And the first time I saw one of those planes come in and land in the field, in the pasture actually, I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. That's something I want to do, is fly something exciting. And it just happened that flying helicopters is almost a good parallel to the crop dusters. Of course, it's crop sprayers now. And I built me a little cockpit in a tree just outside my grandmother and granddaddy's back porch, and I had me a stick and rudder controls, and I flew many hours up there just enjoying life flying that stick airplane. When I went to school at Mississippi State, I enrolled in ROTC and spent 4 years along with my other studies going through ROTC, and I got involved in a flight program and went in the Army. And this went in the Army in 1965, and that was not a good time to be going in the Army. And went in there and applied for flight school. And in the Army, when I was in the Army, I was a military graduate at Mississippi State. Went through flight school, and about the time I got finished flight school, I got orders sending me to Vietnam. That was in August of 1966, and then I flew several years in there, and that's where I spent my flying career, was Vietnam, and then back as a flight instructor at Fort Rucker, Alabama.
That was a long way from flying that tree around the yard, wasn't it?
Yes, a little bit more, I guess, exciting, too. I had to hold on a lot tighter.
Well, I would think so. I mean, so you were right in the thick of it during the Vietnam War, because I would assume that a Huey coming overhead is a pretty good target.
Well, we had what we call the dead man's area, and that's between 50 feet and 1,500 feet. You don't want to fly in there. You got to be right on the treetops. You got to be above 1,500 feet, and that's where we tried to fly, because Huey would be a challenge to hit if it's flying below 50 feet or above 1,500 feet.
Well, I would ask some of the general questions like, what was your experience? But I think we can all make a pretty good guess of what your overall experience was in Vietnam. And again, and I feel like I'm going to say this another 5 times, thank you for your service, and thank you for what you did for the country during the Vietnam War. Is there any incident that jumps out from your time in Vietnam flying helicopters that just you just remember vividly like it was yesterday?
Well, yes, and I can't tell all of it, but weather in Vietnam, flying in weather is tough, a challenge. Half the year you're in the monsoon season, and you're getting thunderstorms and winds, and they're hard to fly in. And when you encounter that at night, it's extremely nerve-wracking and dangerous. And I had an experience with that I'll just leave at that. Flying at night, thinking that I was going to run into the mountains. Didn't have radar, didn't know where I was really, but I had some troops that had to be moved, and 4 of us helicopters went down into a mountain valley and got it at night when it was raining. And that's about as frightening an experience as I want to encounter.
Well, and that has to be just terrifying, because not only for you, but the fact that all those guys are in the helicopter behind you, and they're depending on you to get them safely where they're trying to get to.
That's right. We had a 4-man flight, and we all worked together.
That's a lot of pressure, Doc. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, there's a lot of pressure in the legislature sometimes, too, Dave.
Yeah, I bet it's I bet you probably don't ever feel like you're about to run into the side of a mountain when you're over there in session, though.
No, and I hadn't been shot at here yet, but that's always a possibility, I guess.
That's a good thing, but don't give anybody any ideas, okay? Let's not go down that road. That's a completely different conversation. But by that comment, I would assume you did see some action and see some fire directed in your direction.
Absolutely, and one scary thing about getting shot at is a lot of times the weapon that's been used to shoot at you will have a tracer, and that tracer you can see where the rounds are going by where the tracers are going, and it's going just right beside you. And that's a scary sight when somebody opens up with tracers, knowing that the one that's glowing is just 1 out of 4. There are 4 more coming at the same time that are not glowing.
I think I'd almost take the mountain over that.
Well, I had both of them. I don't know that one was any better than the other.
That's probably a very good point. Now, I want to ask you this question, and I apologize in advance, but we're coming up. Memorial Day, of course, is when we remember those that gave their lives for this country. And I would assume, being in Vietnam and serving over there, you had some men that you knew that didn't make it home.
Yes, sir. I certainly did. And I don't say I think about them every day, but I think about them. I think about them often, and they are still very real to me, very important to me. And that's what Memorial Day is remembering those who were killed. It's not honoring those who are living and serving. It's remembering those who were killed and remembering their families.
Exactly. But, with them being gone, we can remember them and we can talk about them. But the best way to remember the ones that we lost is through the ones that we didn't. Because you were there. You knew them. You were on the ground. You went through the same things they did. So you have a perspective that nobody else can have in these situations. And that's why I almost hated to ask that question, because I don't like asking that question. It's not a fun subject. But I think it's important to remember those people that gave their lives, to ask that question and to talk about it, as uncomfortable as it may be, because they deserve no less.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to go back and contact some of those families, and it's just very significant to me to do that, and I hope it's significant to them that some of us reach out to them and share in their loss.
Do you still talk to some of the folks that you knew over there, some of your friends that you made?
Just this Sunday, Sunday before last, I talked to one of the guys that I went through flight school with, went through 2 different tours in Vietnam, and then went through a tour of being an instructor pilot when I got back. And that's just very meaningful to me.
Well, I can imagine it would have to be. And that's why Memorial Day is so important. And sometimes people get it mixed up, and I'm glad you made that clarification, that Memorial Day is not here to honor all the servicemen and women that we have. It's to honor the ones that lost their lives protecting this country. And that's why we need to talk about them, and we have to talk about them, because as long as we're talking about them, they're still having an impact to this day. And I... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll finish when you get through.
No, I was just going to say that's why I appreciate you, talking to us about it, because I know it's not a fun subject. It's not pleasant to talk about, but I think we need to.
Well, this Memorial Day, the thought of it actually came back from a Union general toward the end of the Civil War as just a way to remember troops that did make it back home.
And see, I didn't know that.
And see that there's a spiritual side to all of this too, and that is, I've heard there are no atheists in foxholes, and that's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, I can imagine. You got to have somebody to lean on. You got to have somebody to hand those troubles to when you're in the thick of it, I would think.
That's right.
We are up against the break, and I know you've got stuff you got to do. I appreciate the time today, Doc, and thank you so much for talking to us about all of this. Okay.
Well, if I can help you anytime, answer any questions or whatever, just give me a call.
Just keep the goat off your desk, and we'll be fine.
Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye.
No problem. Representative Mac Huddleston. Captain Huddleston from the United States Army, Vietnam veteran,